Hello, my name is Teo Suapaia, and my pronouns are he, him. I'm very honored to be talking here today. Today I want to share my personhood with you, to connect with you all. I feel so welcomed in this space, and I thank all of you for your kindness and openness, which you have created here. I first want to tell you a story. That's how it all starts off. Back before I was born, both my parents were attending an LDS ward in Oceanside. For those of you who don't know, LDS stands for Latter-day Saints, and ward is another word for congregation. My parents met there. The bishop at the time was Hawaiian, but most of the ward was Samoan. He would greet his ward with a big talofa. In response, the congregation would say, "Talofa lava." Talofa is the welcoming phrase for hello. It also indicates that the person saying it is sending love and respect to the recipient or recipients. The connection of language is strong. When we practice speaking to someone in their mother tongue, we are trying to connect in a meaningful way. In my mind, this action is saying, "I see you and want to share with you." Saying talofa lava in response gives the same love and respect back. I want to practice with you all, if that's okay. I will say talofa, and you will respond with talofa lava. So, the talofa, and then lava, okay? So, talofa. Talofa lava. Thank you. Really appreciated that. I grew up LDS in Salt Lake City. My mom is half Mexican and white. My dad is Samoan and part Chinese. It was a difficult time trying to fit in when I was young. Neither of my parents were connected to their culture. My mom's father, who I call Papa, wanted my mom and my aunt to be raised white, to acclimate to American values. My dad felt the same way about his culture. I look back now, and the times I have been in these spaces, Mexican, Samoan, or white, my siblings and I stood out. We even had a taolunga teacher, dance teacher, which my aunt had set up for us. She told us our hips were not of us Samoans, and we wouldn't be able to dance properly. We only had one session with her. Later on in my childhood, I was told that my dad, uncle, and aunt were left in California when my dad was in his mid-teens by my grandparents. My dad had grown up in Samoa and moved here to the United States when he was about 13. His home life was one which was strict and abusive. He had also been bullied by his peers at school in Samoa for being part Chinese. It was then I knew that talking about my culture with my dad was a painful topic for him. As a child and teen, there were very few opportunities to indulge with that side of my family. My uncle Arona, my dad's brother, was usually the one who would take us and my siblings to events and make us traditional food out of his umu, which is an earth oven. These are very special memories I have and thankful for. So what is this sermon about? I want to speak about my personal and research experience. I want to talk about the va, the translation meaning the space in between, and the teo leva, which establishes and respects the space relationship between community, culture, and family. Teo leva is the practice of keeping familial and community ties. Va, meaning the physical space between two people or things, such as their environment. It is the philosophical interpretation of how one connects to others and in turn connects to oneself. Anthropologist Malani Ane writes in her research paper on the topic. In her paper, Teo Leva, Dr. Ane gives a methodology on how to better understand Samoan and Pacifica culture, which strays away from Western perspectives, which have not taken into consideration how interpersonal these relationships are between a person and their family, their culture, and overall existence. She says, standard ethics discourse goes some way in coming to know the bones of the person in the general context. But in this relational ethics, we are called to put the anu, the flesh, on the bones of personhood, recognizing our commitments to each other and inhumanity of relationships. I feel this is important. We as humans, no matter what culture or area in the world which we hail from, want to know where we belong in the world. We all have this desire and need to know how to relate to one another, and from there we can expand upon our existence. In this context, being Samoan, there is a specific name for this, and it is va. Samoan and Polynesian cultures have a hierarchical social structure. In a family, each person has a role which ties them to their ainga, so the family, and their outer community. Siblings, based on when they are born to a family, are given specific roles. Sisters and brothers also have a strong tie and a responsibility to one another. Dr. Ane goes further into these roles and on an academic scale, the model in which we should be mindful of. Here she states, my fa'a Samoa upbringing and my valuing of Samoan culture references in acknowledging the centrality of ainga, va tupia, sacred relational spaces, and va fealoi, spaces between relational arrangements. Tatua, to serve, fa'afolole, to respect, fa'ainga, special covenant between brother and sister and their respective lineages. Ngafa, which is genealogy, lotu, church, and the fahafa matai, which is the chief system. These acts of reverence for family, ainga, and the community is crucial to understand if we are to understand Samoan culture. It was something which I was eager and hopeful to be a part of, and in a lot of ways I have been. The first song which played was Safunga Singa. Tells the story of how the Whainga was brought to be. It is a folk tale which displays the importance of brother and sister relationship. The song goes that the sister, Sina, is wanting to marry a rare bird. Her twin brothers go out to find him so they can marry. They tell her not not yell or to go out, for the vine monster, Tui Ole Tufui, will come and get her. She waits and waits, but cannot help yell out to her brothers. Tui Ole Tufui comes into the house and captures her. When her brothers return and see the vine monster, they run, all except one, the youngest, who then defeats the vine monster and saves his sister. This is how the sacred bond between a brother and an older sister is said to have started. The relationship between the younger brother and sister is one of respect and loyalty. The brother is to care and watch over his sister to make sure that she is safe at all times. This includes practices such as serving food to his sister and waiting until she's done eating before he can eat. There's another practice for funerals, and these are for traditional and ceremonial traditions. I was getting my bachelor's in anthropology when I started this journey of practicing Va. I met two professors who would open my eyes to a world I had been dying to connect with, to be a part of. I was exposed to my culture, my language. The hole in my chest was getting filled with knowledge which I had never experienced before. I was able to work under these two professors, Dr. Bell and Dr. DePaulo. Dr. Bell was teaching an oceanic course, which I took immediately after finding out I could. Dr. DePaulo was the linguistics professor. I thank her dearly for giving me the opportunity to fall in love with linguistics. Dr. DePaulo had also introduced me to a group including her, Dr. Bell, and a graduate student, Lisa Johnson. She has since graduated and is now Dr. Johnson. These three people included me in the research they were conducting. At that point, I thought I made it. Working under two professors and a professor-to-be was amazing. I was able to conduct and interview and transcribe the data I collected, all revolving around Samoan language. I was over the moon. I felt like I belonged and that my culture was closer to me than I ever could imagine. Around the same time, I had reconnected with my father after a falling out when I was in my late teens. It was special in a way, but there was still hesitation from both parties. When I told him the research I was doing and the classes I was taking, he didn't seem overjoyed like I had been. At the same time, he didn't push the notion away. I had been asking around for Samoan speakers whose first language was Samoan. This brought my father and me closer, and my uncle Rona as well. I interviewed both of them and were friends of my uncles. It was a beautiful experience, and yet I was warned by both of them to be careful, to be mindful, and respectful. My uncle told me that a lot of Samoans who moved to the island, from the islands to here were very proud and could be prejudiced because of my lack of knowledge of the culture. My dad was more blunt and said Samoans were mean and brute-headed. It was something I knew and had experienced as a child and had also seen on social media, the phrase plastic Samoan, meaning that people who didn't grow up in the culture and values were seen as fake or not true to our culture. But I wanted to meet my interviewers as they were, whether or not they were prejudiced against me. And the lack of faith on my family's part, I was greeted with smiles and happiness. A lot of elders I interviewed were very happy that I was interested in our culture and wanting to learn our language. It was then I started to rethink my position as an outsider, but as one of my people. While I was working on collecting Samoan recordings, I felt like I was practicing Teo Suapaia, that I was trying to bridge this space to understand my meaning and my family, community, and larger world. It was after I graduated from the University of Utah, that I told my dad that I wanted to take Samoan classes to learn more. He told me that I was better off learning Spanish since it was more practical. His lens was one of a capitalistic standpoint, not one of the soul, the cultural connection. He dismissed the notion of furthering my research within Oceania peoples. The research I did, and one that he was involved in, meant so much to me. I stopped bringing up my goals and questions about my family back in Samoa. It seemed like he wanted to move past it after I was done collecting recordings. This distance grew more after I came out as trans. It was the same lost feeling I had when I was young. Disconnected in this way, my crumbling relationship with my father also had strong implications of disconnection with my culture, to my grandparents and family back in Samoa, and to me. The Teo Suapaia, which I was practicing, seemed to stop after I graduated, and my research was put on hold. My ties with my dad and uncle were not the same after me coming out. And although there are third and fourth genders in Samoan culture, I also identify as Fahafatama, the way of the man. My father and uncle have forgotten this practice and have viewed LDS standards as more of an appropriate way of life. And for years, I felt really, really lost. The sacredness of family was gone. I could not hold on to it. I felt like I was at square one again. But, and I always love a but, I was not alone, nor my experience a novel one. I found a community, and not just a trans community, but also a queer Pacifica one. I found a group called Nua Nua Collective. They were like me, shared stories on Instagram of feelings I was experiencing, the lost connection to our family ties and to our ancestors. But they were proof that we could all still connect. They gave me the power back to keep my heart open to my culture and even to my dad. It was like the light came back on. The hurt I had after my undergrad years, feeling as if my link to my culture and heritage had been ripped away, actually wasn't. There were and are so many like us who are our first, second, third, and so on generations, who are disconnected like I was. And the thing is, when there is a diaspora, things shift and change, and they're not the same. Every diaspora is like this. This is because humans adapt. Our cultures adapt and change, and we take in new ideas and values from other cultures as well. All of this to say is that we are constantly changing and growing. And with new ideas and values, we can help grow the communities we are in. That is what I had found. I had found my va, a reverence for our ancestors, but also a new way of distinguishing what my queer Pacifica folks and I are experiencing here, in real time in a westernized society. So with this, what I want to say to you wonderful and beautiful people, do not lose hope in what you think is lost. Whether it is trying to reconnect with your heritage or by connecting with a community you thought you were too distant to rekindle, you have the power, your va. The sacred space in which you can make and build off from. It might look and feel different, but it is that connection and aspiring to repair or revisit those bonds which are important. We are human, we are social beings, and with that comes the inherent need to make community, to connect. We all have this space that might be needing more of that, and we have it within us to reach and build it. Thank you all so much. Fahafatai ma'ia fa'amanuia atu la atua. Thank you and God bless.